Have you ever looked at your life and realized nothing is truly wrong, yet something feels deeply missing? You have stability, routine, maybe even success. But instead of fulfillment, there is a quiet emptiness. Days pass, achievements come and go, conversations happen, and still, there is a sense that you are moving without feeling. You tell yourself you should be grateful, that others have it worse, that this phase will pass. But the numbness remains. Not sharp pain, not dramatic sadness, just a hollow space where meaning used to be. This kind of emptiness is confusing because there is no obvious cause to fix. And when you cannot name the problem, you begin to wonder if the problem is you. But this feeling is not random, and it is not a personal failure. It is often a signal that something deeper in your life has gone quiet. You lack meaning, not comfort. Modern life has become very good at removing discomfort, but in doing so, it often removes something far more important: meaning. For most of human history, survival required effort, struggle, and clear purpose. Every action mattered because it contributed directly to staying alive or protecting the group. Today, many people have safety, convenience, and stability, yet feel strangely hollow. Comfort satisfies the body, but not the deeper parts of the mind that crave direction and significance. When nothing demands your full effort, nothing feels deeply rewarding either. Achievements become checkboxes rather than victories. Pleasures become routine rather than exciting. The Stoics believed that fulfillment comes not from ease, but from pursuing what is worth effort. A life without meaningful challenges does not feel peaceful, it feels stagnant. Imagine an animal in the wild compared to one in captivity. The captive animal has food, shelter, and safety, yet often appears restless or lethargic because its instincts have nothing to engage with. Humans experience a similar state when their daily existence requires little from them beyond maintenance. Without goals that stretch you, values that guide you, or responsibilities that feel important, time begins to blur together. Days pass without leaving a strong impression, creating the sense that life is happening, but not truly lived. This emptiness is not ingratitude and not weakness. It is a signal that comfort alone cannot satisfy a mind built to strive. Meaning usually appears when you commit to something larger than momentary pleasure: a goal, a craft, a responsibility, a cause. Without that anchor, even a pleasant life can feel directionless. The problem is not that you have too little comfort, but that comfort has replaced purpose. You're emotionally exhausted. Emptiness is not always the absence of feeling. Sometimes it is the result of feeling too much for too long. When the mind is exposed to prolonged stress, responsibility, disappointment, or pressure, it cannot remain in a heightened emotional state indefinitely. To protect itself, it gradually reduces sensitivity, dulling both pain and pleasure. What remains is a flat, muted experience of life, not intense sadness, but a quiet numbness. You may still function, complete tasks, hold conversations, even appear composed, yet internally everything feels distant, as if happening behind glass. This is emotional exhaustion, a form of burnout that affects the inner world rather than just the body. Unlike physical fatigue, rest alone does not fully restore it because the depletion is psychological. The Stoics recognize that constant agitation destabilizes the soul, and without periods of true recovery, the mind loses its capacity for joy as well as sorrow. Modern life rarely allows genuine recovery. Even during downtime, the brain processes information, worries about obligations, or remains partially alert. Over time, the emotional system shuts down non-essential responses to conserve energy. You may notice that things which once excited you now feel neutral, and problems that should hurt deeply evoke only a faint reaction. This is not apathy in the moral sense, it is protection. The nervous system is attempting to prevent overload by narrowing the emotional range. Unfortunately, this protection also blocks vitality. Life feels colorless, not because nothing matters, but because the part of you that experiences intensity has been drained. Emptiness, in this case, is not a void of meaning, but a sign that your inner reserves have been depleted and need restoration before feeling can fully return. You're living on autopilot. When life becomes too predictable, the mind stops registering it as meaningful. Routine is useful for stability, but when every day follows the same pattern, experiences begin to blur together. You wake up, perform familiar tasks, interact in familiar ways, return home, repeat. Nothing is dramatically wrong, yet nothing feels alive either. The brain is designed to conserve energy, so it automates repeated behaviors, allowing you to function without conscious effort. While this efficiency is practical, it also reduces emotional engagement. You move through your day, but your attention is elsewhere, caught in thoughts about the past or the future. Over time, this creates a strange detachment, as if you are observing your own life rather than inhabiting it. Moments pass without leaving a strong imprint because they were never fully experienced. The Stoics emphasized presence as a foundation of a meaningful life, reminding themselves to focus on the task at hand rather than drifting mentally. Without presence, even pleasant circumstances feel hollow because you are not truly there to receive them. Modern environments amplify this effect. Constant stimulation trains the mind to seek novelty, making ordinary moments feel insufficient. Instead of engaging deeply with what is in front of you, you skim across surfaces, always half distracted. Imagine walking through a landscape while staring at the ground. You technically travel the distance, but miss everything worth seeing. Emotional emptiness often arises not from a lack of experiences, but from a lack of attention to them. Life continues, opportunities appear, connections happen, yet they fail to register because your awareness is elsewhere. Living on autopilot protects you from overload, but it also prevents fulfillment. To feel alive again, the mind must shift from automatic functioning to deliberate presence, reconnecting you with the texture of each moment instead of letting it pass unnoticed. You suppress what you really want. Many people build lives that look correct from the outside, but feel distant from the inside. Expectations from family, society, or past decisions shape choices about career, relationships, lifestyle, even personality. Over time, you may become skilled at fulfilling these expectations while gradually losing contact with your own preferences and desires. You do what is reasonable, responsible, or acceptable, not necessarily what feels meaningful. This creates a subtle inner conflict. One part of you maintains stability, another quietly resists, sensing that something essential is being ignored. Because this tension is rarely expressed openly, it does not appear as dramatic unhappiness, but as a low, persistent emptiness. You may struggle to identify what is wrong, because technically nothing is. The problem is not failure, but misalignment. The Stoics emphasized living in accordance with one's nature, meaning that actions should reflect genuine values rather than external pressure. When actions and inner inclinations diverge for too long, vitality decreases. Motivation fades because the goals you pursue do not fully belong to you. Imagine holding back a powerful current behind a dam. The water does not disappear, it accumulates pressure. Suppressed desires function the same way. They do not vanish simply because they are inconvenient. Instead, they transform into restlessness, boredom, or a vague sense that life is happening somewhere else. You may feel guilty for wanting more when your situation is objectively stable, which leads to further suppression. Yet acknowledging those desires does not mean impulsively abandoning responsibilities. It means recognizing that fulfillment requires some alignment between external structure and internal truth. Without that alignment, even success can feel strangely empty because it represents achievement of goals that never fully resonated with you in the first place. You're ready for a new stage of life. Emptiness does not always signal loss. Sometimes it signals transition. What once satisfied you no longer does because you have changed, even if your external circumstances have not. Goals that once motivated you feel routine, pleasures that once excited you feel muted, relationships or environments that once felt right now feel limiting. This can create confusion because there is no obvious crisis to resolve, only a growing sense that the current version of your life no longer fits. Humans tend to assume stability equals success, so when contentment fades, they interpret it as failure or ingratitude. In reality, it may be development. The Stoics viewed life as a process of continual refinement, where each stage prepares you for the next. Just as a child eventually outgrows toys without rejecting them as worthless, an adult may outgrow situations that once provided meaning. The discomfort arises in the gap between who you were and who you are becoming. The old structure still exists, but the inner motivation that sustained it has weakened. This transitional space feels empty because it has not yet been filled with new purpose. Many people try to restore the past rather than move forward, seeking to recreate feelings that belong to an earlier phase. But growth rarely allows full return. Imagine a snake shedding its skin. The process leaves it vulnerable and exposed. Yet, without shedding, further growth would be impossible. Human transformation follows a similar pattern. The emptiness is not a void, but an opening, a clearing where something more aligned can emerge. It may push you to explore new directions, develop new skills, or redefine what fulfillment means. What feels like stagnation can actually be preparation. Instead of asking how to eliminate the emptiness, it may be more useful to ask what new direction it is making space for.